You are, Cliff. Just give me the thumbs up when you're ready. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dion Riganil, the founder, the co-founder of Free People, Free People. And today we're going to be talking about dealing with mental wellness, as well as mental health, and as well as mental illness. You know, in our community, we have a lot of people that's returning home from prison, as well as people, young children, you know, that's in school that may be going through a mental crisis. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're also going to be showing a documentary called The Return. And this documentary is based around individuals with mental illnesses that return back into society and their journey. So before we get started, I would like to call up Reverend Martin to get us grounded. And after that, we'll be going into our documentary. Could y'all please welcome Reverend Leroy Martin.
God bless you, Reverend Dion. Let's just not bow our head, but open our minds to receive what God has to offer for us. Mother, Father God, we're grateful and we're thankful for this opportunity to be able to bask in your presence and your anointing. Father, we thank you for the panelists, and we thank you for the idea of perfect peace in our minds and in our environment. Father, continue to bless those that have information to offer, and bless those that have our hearts to receive it. These and all blessings, all other blessings we declare to be so. And so it is, and amen.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Martin. So at this time, if you can draw your attention to the screen, and we're going to watch this documentary, and then after the documentary, we have some professional selected people that we're going to be having discussion about the areas of mental health, mental illness, and mental wellness. Thank you guys for joining. The people on YouTube, Facebook, you be a part of this. Comment, send your messages, share it, because this is something that we need to have in our community. So let's get started.
Just did things like bed hooks.
Tonight on Frontline.
I swallowed a cassette walk.
Schizophrenic.
Sit down with the front.
Out of prison.
They said they got the needle, a feather, and a rope.
With nowhere to go.
We came home for 2 years. That was
And no help to cope.
Psychiatric treatment for those that are coming out of incarceration is very poor.
What would happen if you stopped taking those medications?
I started hallucinating.
You can decide to not take the medication anymore in an instant. All the good can be erased by a relapse.
Many of these mentally ill offenders wind up back in prison again and again.
Going back and forth to jail, back and forth to jail, back and forth to jail.
I see the whole community mental health system as a huge social failure. A person is going to get a better level of care while incarcerated than they're going to get if they live in the community, and that's really sad.
Tonight, the unending cycle of tragedy for the released.
I was in state hospital before prison and diagnosed then at the age of 16 as schizophrenic. I go through cycles where I, don't take my Thorazine willingly and stuff, and then I really, as I say it, my mind snaps. I've cut myself a lot, and I've ingested things like bed hooks, razor blades, ink pens, pencils, toothbrushes. I swallowed a cassette Walkman AM/FM
months later, he stopped taking his medication, robbed a pharmacy, and went back to prison. We also found out that, like Terri, almost all of the inmates we met 5 years ago had since been released and rearrested.
Any person who leaves prison without a pretty good support system will have a very difficult time at trying to stay out of prison. And if you're mentally ill, that compounds the possibilities of you being successful in the community. I think the community knows very little about the fact that we're treating thousands of persons in our prison population with mental illness and serious mental illnesses. And they are a population that would be at risk, not only in the institutions, but when they leave the confines of our correctional facilities.
This year alone, over 700,000 inmates are being released, the largest exodus of prisoners in America's history, and over half are mentally ill. So we went back to Ohio to find out why so many mentally ill offenders aren't making it on the outside.
The parole board let me go. Parole board said, well, we think you are rehabilitated. Honest valid citizen, hard worker, fast person. Honest valid citizen, believe you did the right thing, taught you a lesson by giving you 21 years, over 21 years. So they said, boom, we let you go. Yeah. I got big plans. Me and God got big plans, beautiful plans too. Keep doing the right thing, trying to better myself, and abide by the laws, keeping those things, stay out of trouble.
Michael Grissett was paroled 8 months ago. He spent 21 years in prison for murder and has been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
You have voices going on right now?
No, they don't talk all the time. They listen. They can hear y'all, but y'all can't hear them. I can hear them. And what's inside them can hear them.
And what are they saying to you right now?
They ain't saying that right now. They listen. They're kind of scared. You know what I'm saying?
And then when we leave, what will they say? Will they start to talk to you, or what will they say?
They ask me, say, Mr. Michael Grissett, we know you the father of God. And Father God coming and being the father. They say, where's our cornbread at? You gonna feed us today? They get the out of here. You wasn't born with nothing to eat, no money, so die. That's why I tell the voice of the devil, the voice. So they start crying. They got a needle, and they got a feather, and they got a rope. God give it to them. A needle, a feather, and a rope.
Grissett is one of 50 offenders lucky enough to get into a reentry program in Cleveland. It's one of the few programs in Ohio that helps the seriously mentally ill transition back to the community.
The program is designed for people who have a severe mental illness or a psychotic level illness, which means they're going to be having auditory hallucinations or fixed false beliefs, delusions, and require antipsychotic medication in order to stabilize and function in a regular way.
While in the program, Grissett has access to mental health treatment and sees a psychiatrist once every 2 weeks.
Give me an update for today. Right now, today, how are you doing as far as the voices go?
Fine, good, real good.
Yeah?
100%, 100%. Greater power, greater power.
course of days sometimes, or certainly weeks, people can be quite disorganized and hallucinating and under full spell of delusions and really incapable of functioning in the community.
All right, nice seeing you today. Same for you. Have a good day. Same for you.
But unlike Michael Risser, most mentally ill offenders go untreated and are more likely to commit another crime.
I was upstairs getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner. I was up there cleaning my chickens and trying to, get my stuff done prior to the next day. And I heard him with beer bottles and glass breaking her windows and kept calling them dead lighting out in the middle of the street. So me and my daughter was upstairs and we kept looking out the window because I was scared as hallelujah. So we called the police.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a guy that's trying to break into this lady's house, trying to open his windows and he's banging on the door.
Did he have any kind of weapons or anything in his hand?
He's throwing bottles and plates and carrying on.
When police arrived on the scene, the suspect was arrested, but was released the same day. 12 hours later, he was back, still looking for Osama bin Laden. Moore was sentenced to 8 months for breaking and entering. He'd been arrested and released over 20 times, and this was his 4th time in prison.
Well, I had the usual thoughts about bin Laden, thinking that he was in Canton, Ohio, going to blow up different schools and different places. I hope that he would came out or he would be exposed and that he would be captured. I was going to stay on my meds. It just didn't seem it was working, but it just I just got tired of taking it. I figured I was cured. I was healed from it. I figured I don't have more to lose. But it popped back up saying that bin Laden was still in town. And that's what the problem was. I wish I stayed on it now.
Moore, a paranoid schizophrenic, was medicated and stabilized in prison. This is his last meeting with his treatment team before he's released.
How do you feel now?
Pretty good.
What about your delusions?
I don't have it.
None at all?
None at all.
You really need to make sure you take those medications.
Yes.
Because you know what happens when you stop. What are some of the signs you look for? What would happen if you stop taking them?
I started hallucinating different. Just start getting into that the past of what I used to be thinking about doing terrorists and different things.
Okay. Make sure you take those medications because once you stop taking them, that's when you get in trouble. You don't want to wind up back in prison again. Okay? You don't want to be waking up in some stranger's house looking for bin Laden, right?
Yeah, that was too.
Yeah.
Moore has served his full sentence, so he's being released with no parole or supervision.
All right, guys. All right. Thank you.
For inmates released on parole, at least there's somebody that's tracking that person that's still working with the community to try to get them involved in services. Whereas the person that maxes out, they're pretty much on their own. You try to help make the connection to mental health services in the community, but mental health services are limited. So that person's out on their own to be able to advocate for themselves.
Hey, you are free. Good luck to you. All right, thank you.
When you talk to some of the mental health staff, they talk about it being very difficult. They get real concerned that people that we let out
themselves out of here, whatever that may be, however small those steps may be. Bed 15. Everyone who comes in here has to take a breathalyzer before he's admitted. If he fails, he's dismissed for 30 days and then welcome to come back. We also ask that they don't do drugs. It is an expectation, but we don't have any way of enforcing it. So, you want to just get sheets, Doug, get you for your beds, and bed 20 is the second bunk. You'll see it at the end of that. All right.
And then the pillowcase better.
Oh, it'll work out there. Okay.
Pillow on there now.
All right. I don't think people understand how hard it is to transition from prison life back to everyday life. There's some dignity that's lost with coming here and saying, okay, I have nowhere else to turn. You guys are kind of my last option. You're kind of at the end of your rope. You're hoping this will be a place where you turn around.
All right, fellas. Lights out.
Homelessness is often part of the cycle for the mentally ill coming out of jails and prisons. And once homeless, receiving and sustaining treatment is almost impossible.
So outside a homeless shelter in Columbus, Ohio, an outreach team is bringing psychiatric care to those who would otherwise fall through the cracks.
Don't do it, everything. Tell me the why. I know what you're saying. I'm that boy.
The realities of psychiatric treatment for those that are coming out of incarceration is that it's either non-existent or very poor. People are being released with maybe 1 or 2 weeks worth of medication and told that they should follow up at this time and this date with this agency. Thanks for waiting. Which assumes that they have the judgment that they need to continue their medications as prescribed, and also assumes that they have the cognitive capacity to be proactive with phone calls, making appointments, discussing how many days of their medications they have left. So it assumes a lot.
And how come everything is still in here the way I fixed it? You haven't been taking them?
Yes, I am. I'm the one refilling.
Okay, but today's
Thursday, so...
Thursday. Okay, so you shouldn't have had these for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They should be gone.
Well, I ain't.
This isn't a population that's going to come with their planners and their organizers and keep track of their appointments and seamlessly integrate their own physical health care issues with their mental health issues and be compliant with their medications and keep them in that perfect little medication box as they live, behind a dumpster somewhere. What's more likely is that they'll come out, they'll take their medication for 3, 4, 5 days, either run out of it or lose it. Eventually, they may get into trouble for something again, and it's a chronic cycle for the people that we're seeing.
For real. Well, yeah, she's mad got down.
Is this what you wanted me to have? Okay. And this is what we've been talking about on numerous occasions. You want PC because you don't feel safe.
We first met Benny Anthony in 2004 on the mental health unit of a prison in Orient, Ohio. A classic repeat offender, within weeks of his last release, he'd set his girlfriend's house on fire. This was his 3rd time in prison.
We discussed this, Mr. Anthony.
I want protective custody.
You're in your own cell.
I want protective custody.
All right. And what are you afraid of?
Even medicated, Anthony still struggles with paranoia and believes people are trying to kill him.
It was from Texas, coming out of Texas.
Some of them have syringes of poison, electric battery powered volts on them where they can pierce your heart or your stomach. And some of them have wooden bats and guns.
A year after we first met him, Anthony was released. He did well under supervision, but as soon as he went off parole, he moved to Pittsburgh, stopped taking his medication, and within a month became homeless.
In the past 2 years, Benny has been arrested 10 times. Sometimes he would have, 3 arrests in 1 month. Retail theft, loitering, harassment, a lot of defiant trespass. He broke into several buildings just to get food, open lewdness because he was urinating in the park. That was his home. But the major thread, similar thread through all of them, is that they were all related directly to his mental illness.
After a series of misdemeanors, Anthony was arrested again, this time for assault, and was held in the Allegheny County Jail.
Benny was very sick when he hit the jail. He was yelling loudly, unintelligible words. He just looked very confused. It was very clear that he was actively psychotic.
Anthony was so psychotic that he was diverted from jail to the Allegheny County Mental Health Court, a program that believes mentally ill offenders should be treated rather than punished.
We've talked about your case in chambers, and I think it appears that you hadn't been taking your medication.
In mental health court, mentally ill offenders are given probation instead of prison time. But mental health treatment is mandatory.
See you then.
Benny Anthony?
The next time we saw Anthony, he had been on probation for 4 months. Once again, under supervision, he was doing well.
Good. You look great.
Thank you.
It's a major difference, sir. Major difference.
Your Honor, this is a positive hearing for Mr. Anthony. Mr. Anthony resides in Gibbs Personal Care Home, and he's been maintaining his treatment and doing everything he needs to do.
That's excellent, Mr. Anthony. You know what you need to do. You figured it out, so you just got to keep it up and keep taking your medication, and you get closer and closer to graduating from the court.
Yes, sir. I've been a mental patient since 1974. That's 32 or 33 years ago. And I know what made me paranoid and what don't, If I get paranoid or something, I just go sit somewhere and think it out. And I've been working with that over the years, and I handle it pretty good. I handle my paranoia pretty good. Yeah, I handle it pretty good.
With the court's help, Anthony found a room at a group home for the mentally ill in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania.
In the past, we used to have mainly senior citizens. They're gone. Now we have mainly mentally ill, mostly men, now mostly minority men. Most of them are on public assistance of some kind. Some have been to jail. Most have been in a mental hospital. Some have been homeless, and they have nowhere to go.
Yeah. I'll give you a morning medicine. Already.
Of course, they get a room, they're bored. We provide meals for them. They get assistance with their medications, everything that they may need assistance in. Thank you. But a person may refuse their meds. If they refuse them, there's nothing we can do. We can talk to them about it, let them know what could happen if they can decompensate, but they have a right to refuse their medications.
All set for you, sir.
Oh, that is.
Although the court can't force him to take medication, Anthony has to see a psychiatrist once every 2 weeks.
All right.
I had the opportunity to go through some of your old history.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been through a revolving door.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. There's a pattern to it.
Yeah.
About kind of when you're off your meds.
Yes, ma'am.
What happens?
So I was homeless almost 2 years, and I wasn't taking no medication. I was around all type of cutthroats too, you know. But I made it through without the medication, you know.
Did you want to be on your medication?
No, I didn't want to be on it.
Benny knows well from our conversations that he cannot do well for any consistent period of time unless he takes his medication. And each time I meet with Benny, we go through that again and again and again. Can you write a sentence for me? Symptoms have quelled. He can sit calmly. The agitation is completely gone. And I'm happy that he's responded so nicely to the medication, but just as quickly as that happened, he can decide to not take the medication anymore. And in an instant, all the good can be erased by a relapse. All bets are off.
When William Stokes last left prison, he also stopped taking his medication. Unmedicated and out of control, within a month he was back behind bars.
This is inmate Stokes. He has been very agitated. He punched a brick wall, and he also threatened staff. So the order's been given for restraints.
Stokes has been in prison 3 times. He is a schizophrenic with a long history of refusing medication.
I'll start fighting!
This inmate Stokes 421-895 being placed in 4-way restraints and given emergency medication.
I have psychotic episodes sometimes when I'm not taking the medication. I could be a real jerk. I take Clozaril. It's an antipsychotic. It's like a miracle drug. I'm a totally different person on it. I mean, I'm able to function, abide by rules set here and everything, and it's the medication that I need to be on. I take Depakote also. I take Effexor also, and I also take Trazodone and Vistaril. But the other medications, they're okay, but they don't work as well as Clozaril does. That's the main one.
Stokes has just completed a 21-month sentence for theft and is about to be released again.
Hey, Mr. Stokes.
Hello.
This time, he's hoping things will be different.
So the case manager...
With the prison's help, he's been accepted into one of the few group homes in Ohio that provides mental health treatment.
Is that exciting?
Yes, temporary, yeah. It alleviates a lot of stress.
I know. Last time you left, you were pretty stressed about it.
Yeah.
We were contacted about Mr. Stokes following his release from prison. He has a horrendous history of self-mutilation. He's a spitter, he's a cutter, he's a biter. He's very, very hostile. He has been seen, I would hazard to guess, upwards of near 100 times in the emergency room. He is isolated from his family. He doesn't have a lot of support. And he's not on probation or parole. If we didn't take him this time, he would be at the homeless shelter.
Bring your blues out when you're done.
I'm gonna try to do better this time. Not make the same mistakes. I want to do good. I don't want to fail again. It's actually, I'm at that point where failing isn't even an option. So I'm lucky enough to be going to a place specifically made for mental health. And there'll be a case manager, nurses there, staff, all kinds, all the people you need to help you make it, And this time, since I'm going through all this programming and stuff, they're gonna make sure I stay on my medication.
William Stokes will be living at Bridgeview Manor in Ashtabula with 15 other schizophrenic men. There's nothing else like it in Ohio. It's the only residential facility that accepts the indigent mentally ill and offers them treatment.
You just want to grab your box?
Guess we'll get it inside. Your room is the first door.
Bridgeview Manor is our residential facility, and it was born out of frustration, really.
You share the room with two other gentlemen.
First room on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Here we had very severely ill people that needed residential kinds of services, and we simply couldn't find them.
Clean towels and washcloths are kept up here.
Literally within an hour drive, there were no residential facilities that could house mentally ill clients.
This way.
I'm George.
Hello.
Ricardo, I've been here almost 2 years. My room number 3.
Okay.
How old are you? About 30?
29.
29. Nice to meet you. The staff's really good here.
All right.
They take good care of you.
Okay.
They give you good meals and everything.
Do you want to?
Nice to meet you.
Yep.
Jake, this is William. Most of our residents before living here were living in various states of squalor and disarray. They were isolated, they were lonely. We've had other clients who've come from having been incarcerated, but primarily they've been homeless or living in a homeless shelter.
This is also the area where I think Sherry told you about having groups in the morning.
So what we tried to design here at Bridgeview Manor is a place where housing needs are met, first and foremost. So they live here, they have no predetermined length of stay, and whatever the client has for income, whether it be from Social Security, disability, they pay 70% of that income in rent. And clients have access to individual mental health therapy, partial hospitalization programming, which is group treatment, and case management, all within the house.
For those of you who haven't met William, he is our new resident today.
Hi, William. Hello.
Let's give him a welcome. Does everybody? William, in the morning, we do a morning meeting. Everybody takes part in it. Some people are assigned some tasks. This is the part where we, what?
Positive for the day.
Say something positive. Frank, how about you? Something positive.
I keep myself clean.
Okay, how about something else? Something about you. What are you?
Hope everybody has a nice day.
Okay. Let me give you an example. Are you a nice person? Are you happy person? Funny person?
I'm happy.
You're a happy person?
Yeah.
You definitely are that. Okay. William?
I'm a nice person.
You're a nice person. Okay. Dennis?
Didn't know what to expect. And guys here, you know, they're good people. So lots of personalities, lots of different people. It's all right. You know, nice room, nice beds, good food, people that seem to genuinely care, and that's what I need right now.
There's a huge segment of the population of people that are diagnosed with severe and persistent mental illness that will need care for the remainder of their lifetime. It's not just a matter of, okay, take some medications and learn some skills and then you can go live on your own. These clients need this level of care consistently, day after day after day, if we want them to function at this level. Of course, the danger is that when this level of care isn't available anymore, they immediately are thrown back into the situation where they're rehospitalized and reincarcerated, and the cycle kind of starts all over again.
Wake up! 6 o'clock, wake up, everybody up! 6 o'clock!
Living in a homeless shelter, there's not a ton of success that you're going to see. People will make it out. They will probably not be your average story, you know. They will be the exception rather than the rule.
I mean, the reality of Lynn's situation, he's got a history of alcohol and drug abuse, coupled with a mental illness. You know, the hardest thing for him will be staying clean. If he's able to stay clean, the next hardest thing will be permanent affordable housing. And then, you know, finding work. You know, the combination of three very difficult things kind of converging and happening is unlikely at best. Then staying mentally on even par will be very, very difficult, just because of the environment here, coupled with already being paranoid schizophrenic. Yeah, it's difficult for people with mental illness, for sure.
How much money do you have today?
$19.75. It should supposed to last me at least a month. Trying to keep focused and hopefully find a job and hang on to it. Other than that, it'll be a wait. All right.
Lynn Moore used to receive $627 a month in Social Security disability, but his benefits stopped when he went to prison, and it can take months to get them going again. So today, he's meeting with a case manager, hoping for some help.
So it looks to me like your symptoms are pretty well managed right now with whatever medication they had you on.
Abilify.
Abilify?
Yeah.
All right. And this is good. You're feeling pretty empowered, seeing yourself as a capable person, have a positive attitude. All those are good things.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the main thing is going to be getting your benefits back, right? And what else? What other goals do you have for yourself?
Just to find employment, and that's the main thing.
The main thing?
Yeah.
So you want to get back to work?
Yeah.
What type of work would you like to do?
Construction or restaurant work.
Okay. So the first step is probably going to start looking in the paper.
Yeah.
Putting in applications. How many applications do you think you want to do a week? You don't want to overwhelm yourself.
No, I don't.
You know.
At least a couple.
At least a couple, like 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll make that your first objective. So that means you're going to apply for 1 to 2 jobs per week. So that means that I'm going to encourage, I'll link it to whatever I can, and address concerns. Okay.
I see the whole community mental health system as a huge social failure and a huge moral obligation that we're not meeting, because we went from institutionalization to nothing. And in many cases, a person is going to get a better level of care while incarcerated than they're going to get if they live in the community. And that's really sad, but it's what happens.
When state psychiatric hospitals closed in the 1970s, the seriously mentally ill were left with nowhere to turn, and prisons became the new asylums. Keith Williams, more than anyone we met, represented the failure of deinstitutionalization. Years ago, he might have spent his life at a state hospital. Instead, he was sent to prison, and that's where we first met him. He had just finished a 2-year sentence and was about to be released.
And where are you gonna go?
Toledo, Ohio, St. Paul's. Yeah, pretty much.
And is your family there?
No, I'm not close to my family anymore. Been away too long. I just, St. Paul's, and then after that, somewhere else with my people.
Who are your people?
My mom and Angel's cats.
And where are they living?
They live all over the world. If I'm not mistaken, they live all over the world. All over the world. All over the world.
Williams was taken to a homeless shelter, but within a month, he was back in jail. 5 years later, we found him again at one of the last remaining state psychiatric hospitals in Ohio.
I'm doing a whole lot better. I feel great. I feel happy. I had the confidence to stay out of jail and move on, push on. There's a lot more bigger things going in life than just, going back and forth to jail, back and forth to jail, back and forth to jail, back and forth to hospitals, back and forth to hospitals, back and forth to hospitals, back and forth to hospitals. So so I feel like $1 million, $1,250, $250 there. Yeah, I feel great.
We're here this morning to discuss Keith Williams. Mr. Williams has an extensive history of psych admissions and a variety of diagnoses over the year, including the present one of schizoaffective disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and this is his 18th admission to our facility.
Keith is on Depakote, Seroquel, and Risperdal, but the typical thing is he does well. He responds to medication, but once he's discharged, he's non-compliant, and he ends up either back here or in jail.
He's really well managed right now on 3 times a day medication dosing, which is difficult to expect of anybody, even without, mental illness. Right. But that seems to be the magic bullet for him. So, therein lies the problem.
This state hospital once housed 5,000 mentally ill patients, but today there are only 110. With so few beds, even the seriously mentally ill are now held only for short-term crisis care.
Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
You want juice or water?
Juice, please.
The good news is that Keith is getting better and he is more stable, and in a sense the bad news as well is that because of this he'll be sent back into the community in Toledo, and he'll be back within 3 months, 3 to 6 probably. Probably very psychotic and hopefully not having hurt somebody out in the community, but that's always a possibility.
Once he's released, Williams will be responsible once again for taking his own medications.
And how will you know when to take them and which to take?
I would know when to take them because if I feel like if I feel just normal, I know when to take them. But if I feel like kaboogieing or like groovy or something, or kaboogieing or something, maybe, you know what I'm saying? That's when I know I took them already. So, yeah, that'd be it too. Mm-hmm.
Today's devotion is I am that I am. Moses wanted to know not only who he was, but also who God was. Most people don't know who God is. God says that I am. That means he is whatever you lack in your life. If you lack health, God is your healer. If you lack salvation, God is your savior. If you lack finances, God is your source of supply. What do you need today?
Lynn Moore has been in here 2 months. It's almost a little over 2 months since he first arrived at the Refuge of Hope. At the beginning, he came around for meals, and I would see him, on a fairly regular basis. I knew that he was following up on meetings. He was taking his medication when he was in here. He thought he was going to get housing right away, and then that kind of fell through, and then it looked like that kind of like swung his mood, like he was pretty depressed about the situation, didn't feel like there was much hope.
Pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
And then he failed the breathalyzer on September 5th, and so he was dismissed from our facility for 30 days. And so that's the last I know about his whereabouts.
What's your emergency?
Well, there was a guy out here busted a window out of my trailer today, and they arrested him. I don't know how he's out, but he's back here again. He's back here throwing rocks again.
What's his name?
I think the report says it's Lynn Moore. I know it's the same guy. I'm on the phone again. Well, I'm on the phone with him. I don't know what the hell's going on with that guy.
What was your name?
My name is Ron Whitmore.
Lynn Moore was arrested again. He was taken to the county jail and charged with criminal damage. It had been 3 months to the day since he was released from prison.
You want to step in there for me? Let's go ahead and have a seat.
Lynn, just tell me how you are, what's happened this week.
I don't know, it's the devil, Antichrist, Bin Laden, Satan, Saddam. Yeah. First class 300 prospect. I don't know, it's just cigarettes, You work to perfection. You try to work to perfection.
When you went to the camper last week and to the house, what were you hoping to do?
Like I said, those Bin Laden, Saddam, Antichrist, devil, Ronald Whitmore. I hope I ain't missing them. But, that place is for real.
Do you think this could all be part of your illness, though, and your delusion?
Delusion. No, I don't think it's no delusion. Not no delusion. Running through the spirits and knowing which way they're going, and that's delusions. Because it's like pinpointing right exactly where he's at.
After spending 30 days in jail, Lynn Moore would be released. 1 week later, he would be arrested again. We once believed with deinstitutionalization that the mentally ill would have the same rights and freedoms as the rest of us. But for the seriously mentally ill, real freedom can be hard to define.
There is this notion of focusing on freedom
which is an important idea, of course, in our country, but what's maybe not appreciated is how free one isn't when you're being affected by schizophrenia. Maybe there was a hope when many people were in the hospitals that we could do things better in the community and that people would have more freedom. But we also see the negative side of that freedom.
Was it a good policy change to deinstitutionalize? Absolutely. But I think that it went a little bit too far, and that we do have people that are out there that really do need some level of supervision on a regular and consistent and constant basis. They are chronically mentally ill.
There are now over 1 million mentally ill inmates in prisons across the country, and within 18 months of their release, the vast majority will wind up back behind bars.
I don't promote the bringing back of state-run facilities by any stretch of the imagination, but we need to understand better how to divert persons who are mentally ill, who've committed crime, to something other than a state prison or jail. State prison correctional facilities is not the answer.
It's been 7 months since William Stokes moved into Bridgeview Manor, and he continues to do well. Michael Grissett was hoping to complete his parole, but on January 16, 2009, he was shot to death during a robbery in his group home. 2 weeks before his court review, Benny Anthony stopped taking his medication, packed up his belongings from Gibbs' house, and disappeared. He is now back in the Allegheny County Jail. And 4 days after he was discharged from the state psychiatric hospital, Keith Williams assaulted a police officer. He is now facing 10 years in prison. Next time on Frontline, these women.
I hope everybody took note of the documentary, because mental illness is real. And there's ways to cope with mental illness, and it seems like society really looks at people that have mental illnesses as something that can't be contained or controlled. Actually, people in society may feel that they're scared of people that may have a mental illness. So at this time, we're going to bring up one of the speakers that's going to elaborate on his journey and the way he dealt with his mental wellness as well as his mental health. And the brother's name is Demetrius Knuckles-Ill. He's getting himself prepared. For those that's on social media, I would like for you to share this video. I would like for you to comment and get engaged with us, because this is something that we have to talk about in our community, in the urban communities. We see a lot of homeless people. We see a lot of young children that suffer from this mental illness. So this is a discussion that we have to bring light to, and this is something that we're going to bring light to today. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring up the brother, Demetrius Knuckles-Ill, once he gets himself situated. And that's what it's going to be. Give me a minute. And then after that, we'll have a couple of more individuals come up to speak on their aspects of mental wellness. Knuckles-Ill?
How y'all doing? All right. Let me just say that the video that was showed, the video the video that was showed, that was some people would say that's extreme, right? And it is extreme. But it's the common extremity that guys coming home, a lot of guys coming home really deal with. It's just that some guys, fortunately for the guys that I have met in Michigan, a lot of guys have family members and some type of support system. Because the lady on there, when she opened up, this is what I don't agree with about a lot of this stuff that they be talking about. I just be straight up. I'm not one to agree with none of this garbage they be talking about because I got the lived experience that I can tell you about personally. When they say that prisoners receive better care in prison than out here, let's put that in context first. We receive horrible care in there. Absolutely deplorable, inhumane care in there. So, putting it in context, to say that we receive better care in there and we receive horrible care in there than we receive out here, that tells a story. The care out here is just not there. And that's why, how are you going to 1 minute diagnose a person as having these mental illnesses and paranoid schizophrenic and all of these other mental diseases, and then you want him to rationalize when you say, hey, you free now. Here's your meds, 2 weeks. Get back with us. So now he's supposed to be rational after he spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years in prison under a structured program that he needed to keep him on track. And now you feed him to the wolves and say, hey, you'll be all right. You got 2 weeks worth of meds. I'm giving you $75 too. We're even going to drop you off at the bus station. You haven't been out here in 21 years. Oh, this is a new bus station. So who's really mentally ill? That's how we sink into our mental illness out here. That's how we sink into, some of us have developed mental illnesses, such as myself. Some of us have these things, but we fall deeper into it and lose control of it by the people that controls the narrative. So if for example, when I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with the term was close to developing the deep-seated character disorder. Well, about 20 years later, I asked the psychiatrist. It was crazy because my probation officer back then, when I was 9, his friend was my psychiatrist 20 years later. He just seen my probation officer name. He said, Mike Husted. He said, that's my college buddy. And he was my psychologist. So I asked him, what does close to developing a deep-seated character disorder mean? He said, well, in layman terms today, it just simply means depression. I said, why couldn't you just say I was depressed? But now, when you say a character disorder, now you're talking about someone's character. They're acting outside of a character. So now I adopt that idea of developing the deep-seated character disorder. I'm taking y'all somewhere. I adopt that as my diagnosis. And I began to live out that diagnosis because I began to act like everybody other than myself. Hey, Psych said I had a deep-seated character disorder. He said deep-seated, that means it's deep. He didn't mince the words. I got it in black. I still got the document in black and white. Say deep-seated character disorder. So now that becomes my excuse to sink further into that character disorder. And I always tell people the hardest thing that I ever had to do in my life was being somebody that I wasn't. Because that meant that I always had to put on a show. That meant that the lies had to be in a line with one another. That means that when I walk in this room, I'm him, and when I walk in that room, I'm them, and when I walk in that other room, I'm somebody else. Because I had a deep-seated character disorder. When we buy into this, it's kind of like, I kind of equate it to the BMI, the body mass index. And this is no disrespect towards anybody, but that body mass index don't apply. It's not talking about me. Because it wasn't created about me, right? People in Africa didn't eat meat. People in Europe ate meat. So the body mass index is automatically different. You get lean muscle by eating being a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for 9 years straight. No meat, no sweets, no animal byproducts of no kind. So I equate a lot of this to that type of diet, that physical body diet, and now we're talking about this mental diet that's so corrupt that we're receiving. So as I went to prison, well, as I was paving my way to prison, because I was paving a nice pathway to prison for myself because I had a deep-seated character disorder. See? I could always lean back on that. When the site said I had a deep-seated character disorder, I was too young not to buy into it. I was being indoctrinated by the system that had identified a problem in me that may not really have existed or developed had it been explained. Because at that time in 1982, when I was 9, my father had died. 2 years before that, the person that I looked up to, my grandfather had died. That's where I get my skin tone from. And so as I was growing up and developing this deep-seated character disorder, and I was buying into it, that's not to say that I didn't have a problem. So please don't mince the words or misunderstand what I'm saying, because I did have a problem. I'm just saying that when they feed you a certain food that they say is good for you, it's only because this is the only food that they know of, kind of like when COVID came out and they just ain't know how to diagnose it. So they was just giving us anything that they thought would work. Well, we know that the people behind the scenes know what works and what don't work. But we're talking about the people on this side of the curtain with us. They was just giving us anything that they thought that would work. And when it worked, they said, we're going to duplicate that with him and them and them. So as I grew older and I became in my teens and I developed that deep-seated character disorder that I bought into and was indoctrinated by, I became a young, if there was any such thing as a career criminal as a youngster, I was a career criminal. In and out of the Wayne County Youth Home. And the thing about it is that I've always been very, very book smart. I always loved school. I really didn't go to school much. But that's how smart I was, that I didn't even have to go to school much, and I would still just pass. And people copy off my paper, because I caught on to stuff quick. Because I had a deep-seated character disorder. So I knew that I could be whoever I wanted to be. I thought that was a part of the mental illness, when that was a part of my strength. So what I did is I ran away from school, because I thought that was part of my mental illness, that I was like a kind of nerdy a little bit. I ran away from it. Because in my deep-seated character disorder, I just talked about this on my podcast yesterday. And I was talking about the two choices that we have in this presidential race. And I was equating it to the two choices that I thought I had in my life. to either be a drug dealer or a drug addict. That's all I ever seen. The criminals was the drug dealers and car thieves and bank robbers and stick-up men, and then my parents and them was the drug addicts and blah, 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 blah. Well, I vowed not to be the drug addict. But I only thought I had them two choices. Kind of like in the presidential election, we only told that we got two choices. So now, I tell the story of the two men who was driving along that road, and they seen a snake on this side of the road and a snake on that side of the road. I know y'all heard the snake story, but I don't know if y'all heard this one. So, the man on the left side of the road picked the big old snake up, put it in the back of his truck, took it home, nursed him back into condition because he was all sick. The man on the right side of the road did the same thing with his snake. So the snake was looking very healthy, cozied up with his owner all the time. Every time the owner would wake up, the snake would be laying right up beside him. Man, hugged up with him, protecting him. The man on the right side, snake was doing the same thing. So one day, the man on the left side woke up and the snake was looking him dead in his eyes, like he was smiling or something. So he got kind of scared. He went to the vet. He said, man, I got this big snake and I rescued it, I helped it, and every morning he's right there with me by my side like a pet, like he know me. He said, wow. He said, you mean he laying right by you like he hugged up on you? He said, yeah. So the guy on the right, he see him at the vet, and he said, my snake do the same thing. The vet say, because the snake is sizing you up to eat you. Because the snake is still a snake. Now I'm saying that to say that, not the two presidential candidates, because both of them snakes. I ain't talking about them two. I'm talking about my thinking. I was being indoctrinated to accept a snake. The snake was that I had a deep-seated character disorder, and the other snake, I could either accept that fact or I could just be somebody that I wasn't, because I was never taught that I had a choice. I was never drug dealer or drug addict. That was my choices. I was never taught that I can just go up the middle. I was never taught that I can go up the middle. And what I mean by go up the middle was that I could find healing. That there is people out there that really care. I was never taught that fact. Because everybody that I ever ran into, even as a child, I knew they didn't care. Children sense that. Children sense when a parent don't like him or she treat the big brother better than you or the sister better than you. We sense that. So I have always sensed that I was entertaining two snakes. And both of them, the drug dealer lifestyle was sizing me up to devour me. The drug addict lifestyle was sizing me up to devour me. And I chose the lesser of two evils, as we do in the presidential election to this very day. We choose the lesser of two evils. I don't want to choose the lesser of two evils anymore. So by the time I made it to prison and I had a life without parole sentence, I realized that I had turned, it was 1999, I had turned 26 years old. I love telling this story. I remember I first told it. I was in a hole. I was in a hole in prison. Segregation. And I had been in the hole at that time. In 1999, I had been in the hole about 7 years at that time. And I remember telling myself, I said, man, I got life without parole. I got to get out of prison. My mother had passed. My little cousin, who was like my little brother, had gotten killed. And I was like, I got to get out of prison. And I remember sitting in that prison cell. I literally did this. I got my pen and pad out. I say, when I get out of prison, I used to always say when I get out of prison, not if I get out of prison. When I get out of prison, I'm going to start an organization to pay homage to all them old head guys that was teaching me this stuff that I wasn't listening to. It still hung with me, but I wasn't listening to it at the time. It was like the hair on the back of your neck that you know it's there, but you just can't see it. But it's there with you. That was the knowledge that they was giving me. It was there with me. So I say, man, I want to start an organization to pay homage to all these guys and some of these prison females who taught me too, and some of my female family members who came up to visit me, because they allowed me to stand on some shoulders to see a freedom that some of these guys may never even see. But they told me, just get on my shoulders. I want you to see it, because there's something about you that I got to let you see that freedom, because you're going to be that beacon of hope for us behind. Right now, we're not prepared to stand up, but we're prepared to let you stand up. And so I named my organization in prison the Great Minds Project. And I spent 28 years in prison, and I would see a psychologist the first, after I got out the hole, because I went to the mental health institution and all this type of stuff. They tried to put me on the meds. But again, I was always taught that you only got two choices. I didn't realize that I can just go up the middle and I ain't got to choose either one. Because when you're standing on the side of right, you can't go wrong. Just going up the middle. Now you can't be right or you can't be wrong. You're not involving yourself in no choice that doesn't belong to you. And so I told them, I said, I'm not taking them meds no more. This was after 2 weeks. I'm not taking that no more. And when I was in the mental health ward, they used to see me talking to the people that they deemed crazy and insane and all this other stuff. And they talked to me normally. And so the doctors and psychologists there used to call me Dr. Knuckles, because I was able to communicate with some people that they couldn't communicate with, and they had degrees. But the only reason that I was able to communicate with them is because I always taught them that they had a choice, that they didn't have to buy into the diagnosis and live or allow the diagnosis to control them, that they had agency over their own body. I don't care what medication they put in your body that may help you, help guide you into your own agency. But you have to have the goal in mind that my goal is to establish and live out my own agency and not live under control of some medication. So I used to talk to these guys. And I remember one time, one guy, he tried to be funny with me, because I knew he was just manipulating like I was manipulating. He was standing on his head. So I went in the corner and stood on my head too. Now I was talking to him upside down. And I said, I ain't getting down till you get down. Both our head, blood rushing to our head. Blood rushing to our head. And we end up sitting down. And he said, yeah. He said, man, he said, I got problems, but it ain't as serious as I make it out to be. I said, I know, brother. I said, most of us got problems, but it's not as serious as we make it out to be. We just have to learn to get in control of our own agency. And so when I woke up in prison in 1999, that's what I did. I woke up and realized that I had life without parole in prison. I don't want to see no more psychologists. I don't want no more medication. I don't want no more anything, because, and this don't go for everybody, this was my case. It may not apply to some of my friends who never made it out and never made it off medication. One of my friends just literally put his penis in the Foot Locker and just slammed it and cut his penis off. They laughed about it. My other friend cut his stomach wide open and just was eating the stuff out of his stomach. Come on. My other friend, who I was just telling the students at U of M about, we used to play chess through the door because we couldn't see each other, so we'd play chess. 13 to 29, 14 to here. And so I would wonder why the police would always go by a cell with they hold their nose, and now they want to make sure that they go get all the white females with the video cameras, so now they can humiliate the black guy. So they go to his cell, and I'm peeking out this little peek hole. I'm like, what the hell is they talking about? He come out, Johnson. We used to work out together too. Every day we working out, we be like, let's go, drop down, give me this. I hadn't seen him in a couple years because he stopped taking showers. Mental illness set in on him, and he bought into it. A lot of us, the Sykes was coming to see, because I did 9 years straight in the hole. They don't care about that either. My other friend right now, Money Mott, been in the hole 37 years. 37 years. December will be 37 years for him. He been in the hole, and they say they ain't never letting him out because he unalived the correctional officer who was foul and racist, and the man's mother just died, and the correctional officer was making fun of him. And so anyway, so the guy Johnson, my friend Johnson, he came out of his cell, and they was like, oh, God, cover your nose. And so I'm looking, I'm like, I know inmates throw feces and stuff, and I'm like, they ain't throwing feces because ain't nobody running. So I'm like, he came out, his hair was waved up, his mustache and beard was smooth, slicked down, but it was all feces that did that for him. That's how mental illness, that's the prison system that she was talking about that's so good. That was the prison system. That she said the prison system treat us better than out here. That was the prison system right there. That was the prison system when my neighbor Skeet chopped his penis off. And the officers just come around and laugh. This man bleeding, the nurse had to come around there. That was the prison system when the little guy cut his whole stomach open and he just got to eating his guts out his own stomach. So much so that he cost the Michigan Department of Corrections at that particular time, this was in the 90s, $1.5 million in surgeries. So why am I telling y'all this? Because it's brothers and sisters that's coming home. We can't quantify the traumatic experience that they had and that we had. We have people who try to connect them and say, well, it can't be that bad because this, and that. No, it can't be that bad. I don't look like what I've been through. And people look at us and they just say, he all right. We got to stop doing that. Because when I got out of prison 28 years later, I was only all right because I was out and I was happy, I was excited. I was like the little kid in a candy store. I was like my man when he first got out of prison and he went to that place that used to be something else and now it's the refugee center. He didn't care what it was. He was just happy that he was out there. But then did you see his face when he went in there and he had to get on that bunk? That's when that mental illness reminds you that you got a problem. When I had to go back in my cousin's room, my favorite cousin let me stay with her. When I had to go back in that room, I was confined to a room. I didn't have to stay in a room, but I was confined to a room. That's when I was reminded that I had a problem. And I still had to deal with the problem. So I used to go outside all the time. And I had my weights in the driveway and in the backyard. And I had a car at the time. I washed the car all the time. I lift some weights. Just to get out. Like in prison, we just wanted to get out of the cell, so we'll go work out. I don't care if it's freezing, winter, cold. We out there. Hands froze. No exaggeration. When you spit, your spit freezes on your face before it hit the ground. We'll just go out there. So, because the air of freedom is invaluable. But when you suffer from mental illness, like so many of my brothers and sisters do when we come out here, and everybody says, oh, they good, oh, they this, oh, we begin to buy into it. That's that other snake. We begin to buy into that. while the mental illness is welling up, all I'm listening to is you tell me that I'm good. Man, you looking good today, man. I'm so happy for you. You got a job, you got this. But nobody ever sits us down and say, hey man, what's going on with you, man? Because I know everything ain't peaches and cream. Because I'm a human being like you. And I ain't never been to prison, and it ain't peaches and cream for me. And you've been to prison and did 5, 10, 20, 30 years. So I know it ain't peaches and cream. Let's talk. And that's the program that I am trying to help put together right now. Next month, we'll have our Returning Citizens Summit, because I want to talk to some of my brothers and sisters, because it's a lot of us that's going through some stuff and don't want to talk to nobody about it because we are ashamed. So now we are allowing those choices to kick in. I only got 2 choices. When you can have as many choices as you want. But if we as a people don't make brothers and sisters who's coming out feel comfortable with expressing themselves, we might be their next victim. We might be their next victim. Because sometimes the devil will embody you, and you'll be laying beside that man contemplating how you're going to devour him, like that snake, sizing them up. So I'm going to close with saying this here. When I got out after 28 years, and I ran into guys that I know had problems like me, like this brother. I ran into a lot of brothers that I know had problems like me, but they thriving. And that's what motivates us. Because we might not even see each other for another year. But when we see each other, just that smile, that energy is the memory that we have of where we came from and how far we came and where we're going. And so we try to feed this to the public. We try to change the narrative and the stigmas, remove the stigmas that attach to people like us, because we want to give y'all the truth on how to help provide therapy for us, because we provide therapy for you. We provide protection for y'all. But we want that same love and rigor returned to us in our quest to continue to be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Knucklezeel. We're going to bring up the next speaker. He's also a mental specialist. His name is Renato Bozil. Islam, bro.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Yes, my title today. My name is Renato A. Bozil Senior. I want to speak on a little bit about, first I give honors to the previous speaker before me, Knucklezeel. I grew up with him in there, so what he's telling you, he's telling the truth, so I'm going to save a lot of that story. When we think about mental illness and things of that nature, and how it affects someone that's come out of, thank you. When we think about mental illnesses and things of that nature and how it affects somebody to come out of prison, we have to think about what was their life prior to going to prison. What was the issue? What was the underlying issue? What got them there? So I'm gonna start off a little bit different than my previous brother, Knucklezeel. I'm gonna go backwards. What I do professionally, I work at, first of all, I'm representing my own company today with my wife and I, East One Connections Incorporated. And we service people that have mental illnesses, people that's coming from trauma situations, traumatic situations, and also people that's coming from prison, wherever your prison might be. Sometimes your prison ain't always an institution, a physical institution. It can be a prison that's within yourself. All right, molestation, physical and sexual abuse. Your prison can be that room that that young girl or the young boy was in every night that's getting taken advantage of, getting violated, okay? So in our job, in my career, I work with people that's coming. We're going to talk about the subject of returning citizens. Men and women, long-term incarceration, those had short-term incarceration who are dealing with the effects of those issues I just talked about. So when they went to the physical prison, they was already locked up. They was already dealing with stuff. They had a lot of stuff they had not addressed, what I'm talking about. And so when they come inside my offices or my wife's office, they are broken. They are in denial. They are suffering from the stigma of trying to express what they're dealing with internally. Those physical, psychological change within their mind and the stress that's caused their body is giving them bad health. So, what is I'm trying to get to is that we first got to acknowledge, number one, that, hey, depression, post-traumatic stress, and schizophrenia, and psychosis. Anybody know what psychosis is? Okay. I'm gonna speak on psychosis. A lot of times we see those people talking to themselves and things of that nature. We say, hey, you know what? He's crazy. I go to stigma right there. But psychosis is they are hearing and seeing things that that you won't be able to see that they hear. If you go back to the film, I believe it was Williamson, might have been Johnson, the older gentleman who said that they can hear you, but you can't hear them. Remember that? That was kind of deep, right? So somebody said, but he was functioning normal and things of that nature. It appeared that he had what you want to call a double-edged lifestyle. At one moment, he appeared to be sane. At another moment, he appears to be out of it. Or one people would say we're crazy. He's talking to himself or he's hearing things that people can't see. Okay? So I followed the film. I watched it twice. And there was another gentleman that was in there that said he was attempting, y'all caught that in a minute, he said he was swallowing razor blades while he was in there. And that wasn't his first bout. Okay? So those same individuals you see in that film is the same one walking our offices. In my other professional life at Detroit Recovery Project, as well as Team Wellness, I work in the Crisis Center, we deal with those same issues every day. I got to deal with it tomorrow when I go in from 4 to 12. All right? And I want to say this. The reason why I sit up here today and I can talk about it, I can identify it, is because I'm also a person that have a lived experience. I suffer with depression and things of that nature all my life, ever since the age of 12 myself. Matter of fact, I'm also a former lifer. I know Knuckles spoke a little bit about that. I served 25 years. Anger, things of that nature. I can't get it. Y'all have to see my film, but I will talk a little bit about it because I don't want to leave you guys clueless. I was an angry young man most of all my life. Molested at 8 years old. Took me a long time to even say that. By a friend of the family, and another time at 10 years old. So 8 and 10, I was in prison myself with dealing with that. And I had a lot of anger. And I got involved with the wrong people on the streets, fueled my anger. They diagnosed me at one time because I had jumped on my mother's boyfriend with impulse control. Anybody heard that? That diagnosis don't exist no more. And they started me off with a medication called Enderel. And then later it was Thorazine. And all that stuff didn't work. But I was undocumented that, hey, I have a problem. So guess what? I have a problem, so I'm justified in acting the way I want to act. I can do what I want to do because I have a problem. Well, that problem exploded right in my face because I didn't talk about the 8 and 10-year-old violation I experienced, right? So it exploded in my face after my grandmother got murdered. Grandmother got murdered in 1990, December 5th, 1990. I lost my mind. I didn't care about nothing or nobody else. I was a ticking time bomb. I got into an altercation. I shot 2 individuals, and they arrested me, and they sentenced me to life in prison. I deserved every bit of it, too. Because when you know right, you do right. See, I knew what happened to me, so I should have been more empathetic to the next person that I shouldn't did to nobody else, correct? So I went, they gave me all of it. It was the men that Knuckles Hill talked about that was in prison, and they was nameless. Some of them have died in there, but they knew that they had messed up like I had messed up. It was a possibility that they would never see the streets again. So they took people like Knuckles Hill and myself and many other Brother Riggins Hill, and they educated us as a boy, 18, 19, 20-year-old boy. They taught us about the law. They say the only way you're gonna get out of here, because we didn't have $20,000 and $30,000 for an attorney, that we know what we're gonna do. We're gonna teach you. And all we ask in return that what you do, we want you to go out there and help somebody else. And God be the glory, Allah be the glory, that's what we've been doing. I've been out 10 years, all right? Okay, so it was there that I started identifying myself. It was in segregation. I was in and out of that boy. Then I started coming to grips. I started having nightmares. I started having a lot of stuff that I was dealing with internally. But it started internally before outward. Inward, outward. That's how it go. I don't care who you is. I started dealing with that. I started coming to grips with who I was and what I was at that particular time and who I thought I was. And it was then that I made a life change. And I'm giving y'all the remix version because I'll be here all day telling you the story. Read the book or see the story on TV, whatever. But I came home. I didn't choose this field. This field chose me. I myself, when I came home, everything was different. Cell phones. I went in as a beeper. They got cell phones now. When I came home, it was like, oh my God. I was paranoid, extremely paranoid, just like the gentleman in the film. I walked, people walked behind me, I did this. I didn't let nobody walk behind. That's how we was in prison. So, I don't know what this is, somebody's phone. But anyway, I started going to a place called Team Mental Health at that time. And that's where our brothers in there, I had got some misinformation too from some of them brothers too, that I was gonna give me a crazy check. Man, they gonna give you $1,200. That was the biggest lie I ever told, and that's the biggest lie they told me. So I go out there, I'm going down there, I get services. It was then that it was a guy with their name as a peer support specialist. He said I can mention his name was Kevin Harris. And he told me about this story, and oh my God. I said, man, I can talk to this guy, you know, me and him got some similarities. And it was there I cried for the first time for my mother, all my family that passed away while I was in there. That was my release, because in there, you couldn't cry. You couldn't have an opportunity to grieve your loved ones. So 25 years, trust me, we lost a lot of people. And I broke down in the office. I cried a puddle. I think that's the most I've ever cried in my life. And that was the beginning of my healing, the inner healing, you know. And so at the time I was married at the time to my first wife, and it didn't work out in the last 6 months. And I was going out to Teen Wellness every day, and I was seeing another young lady I was attracted to. That's another thing too. A lot of people don't talk about coming out of prison. When they lock a young man up for as a young age, he goes in the same, comes out the same age he or she comes out. Okay? So I wasn't looking at grown women. I was looking at children the age I was when I got locked up. It's kind of scary. And I had to pull back. You had to relearn everything. So I seen the young lady, you know, she was a janitor down there, and I was always trying to get her number. She said, you want to get my number? You follow me into the peer class. I'll give you my number. I followed, she gave me a number, and I was back there having a laugh and joking and things of that nature, trying to woo. Because remember, at that time, we didn't have no game. You know, we was children when we got locked up. So one of the ladies, rest in peace, Peggy Wheeler, she's one of the instructors, and she said, you know what, young man, you come here every day, mess with this girl. Why don't you become a peer? I said, what is a peer? She said, you can help somebody else with your story and things of that nature. I said, how you know my story? She said, everybody got a story. You just ain't told yours. And so fast forwarding it, I wound up getting to the peer class, and I wound up becoming like a specialist, a peer support specialist. You know, how can I say it? You know, And I became a force to be reckoned with because I was like anything else I picked up, whether it was in the streets or whatever. I wanted to be the best at it. But also I knew that I had to, people was coming to me. They was like, hey, Renard, how you handle this? You got out, you did this. And I started learning how to network. I learned how to build a resource format. And I built up this big binder and I was helping people out. And I was just like, it was natural for me because that's what I did when I was in prison as a paralegal as well. And it was then that I moved up in the company. I've been there 10 years, but I'm with somebody else that I thought that was better suit my needs. I met my wife there, this here. You know, my wife and my business partner. She's Bow Enterprise and I'm East One Connections. We both work together and we do the same thing. She is a master level therapist, so everything came by circle. So I want to be sensitive to the time too. Let me get to that. I owe a lot to my wife because my wife was equipped to deal with me with my post-traumatic stress. See, I was helping everybody else. I wasn't dealing with self-care. And that's what a lot of times we do when we come into this field. We work, and yet it was get out of control. I was having nightmares that I was still in prison, but yet I was free. And now sometimes I have nightmares that I was free, but still in prison. Example what I'm talking about is this. I would be in my living room, have dreams about I'm in my living room, but yet I would look over to my right and I see a chow hall. I see metal benches. Or I look over to my left and I see a line of people waiting to go to chow. Or I look over and see people playing in the gym. Or I hear a lot of keys jingling, water dropping, things of that nature. It was bugging me out, and I would wake up in deep sweats, and it was my wife who would grab me and hold me and say, hey, you know what, you okay, you all right. So, well, everybody don't have a wife like that. Everybody don't have that support. But she was equipped to deal with me. Thank God, baby, you didn't get afraid of me. And I was a violent guy. I wasn't really a nice guy on the streets, you know. And she knew about that. I was able to open up to her and let her know. But she always tell me, don't let your past define you. And in me doing that, I was able to get the greatest gift that anything can be able to bestow on man or woman. And that's the gift of forgiveness. I was doing so great out helping people. And not only with my company, I have recovery houses that own my wife and I, that we pretty much to this day, we don't have funding. We let people move in there for free. I shouldn't have, you ain't recording this. I don't want nobody calling me. Don't call me, please. It's not free no more. Okay? So that's what I did. And that came through a lot. 18 months in NSO down there on Cass. Where before I met my wife and we came one, I had a backpack. And my first check that I got from Team Wellness, that they paid me $850, you know. Yeah. I had $1,500 in there. I sold back up. That's what was good. And I don't want to get out the secrets about the guys, you know, in this case, the wrong people looking at it. But we sold that money, and I took that money and we bought our first house. I renovated it, but I learned how to do that in prison. I applied myself while I was in prison, built this trade, learn how to rehab a house. So we built one house, then we rehab another house, and that's why we got what we got today. But going back to the mental aspect of it, because I want to stay on point. And I know she's looking at me. She wanted me to stay on point, y'all. Is that the mental component of it is this. It can, just like anything else, you can get through. You never get over a lot of things, but you can get through. You can be a sufficient person and live with your illnesses, just like a person that's dealing with cancer. That person, they say, is in remission. It can, but also be mindful that it can be triggered, okay? They can be triggered by how you are treating yourself. From self-care, not therapists, now you're getting your therapist. Sometimes meds, I don't agree with meds all the time because they do have serious side effects. That's why I got off of them. But they have holistic stuff that you can use. Also, just talking about it, I think most of my treatment and therapeutic came from me just releasing those chains of embarrassment. You know, releasing those chains of guilt and feeling and feeling that you can't say that. And I'm telling you, by me opening up my story, that's why I've been all over the world telling this story. And people come to me, even from China, about my documentary, things of that nature, and they say, man, I went through that too. And they was able to deliver themselves and free those psychological and those physical chains. Because trust me, what's inside is outward. That's why you see people, they're so angry. And that's how it was for me. I was able to free myself. Okay? It ain't easy. Everybody might don't have that same component. But when you share your story, my biggest treatment has been me expressing and telling my story and then looking at the effect of people that come to me afterward or write me letters and say, hey man, thanks for sharing that. I've been holding on to this. Oh, this happened to me. And they come to my office all the time. All the time. They come to me in many forms. Some of them I have met them at the corner at McDonald's because they was embarrassed to walk inside a substance abuse place or a mental health place. Wherever the form it is, you meet them where they're at because they need that deliverance too. We all do. You know, it is what I want to call, it is very disabling for somebody to carry that type of burden. And yes, in there, they did a lot of stuff to us in prison. A lot of stuff psychologically while we was in there. But we want to catch the young men and women before they get there. We want to treat them before they get there. You know, as the preachers say, we want to minister, as our grand sheik say, we want to get them before that. And there's people out here that's advocating. We out here 10 toes down every day. The young girl, rest in peace to the young lady just lost her life, 11 years old. That was another young man. I can't even say his name because he was a client of mine. Okay? One of them was. That's how deep that is. We have to be proactive on this. It's a humane thing. It's not just a black and white or it's a humanity thing. I want people to understand that this mental illness is serious. I'm going to start wrapping it up. And I want people to take it serious is that I want you to take this message. Those who are listening, don't be afraid. Have that conversation. It might be a friend or build your support system. Have somebody that you can be delivered to. Do not go to your grave, you know, be delivered from that. And make sure that, you know, if it's somebody you want to go in and talk to, it don't have to be just get online. They got therapists right now online you can talk to. But that's all I want to leave you with. I didn't have much because it is a sensitive topic for everybody. And a lot of people don't like talking about it. But I will tell you this, it is real. Mental illness is real. It's not going anywhere, right? It is treatable, and you can get through. Some things you may not be able to get over, but you will be able to get through those circumstances. God bless everybody. I want to give honors to everybody that's in here that came out, because you didn't have to come out here. It's on a Saturday. This is me and my wife, our off day, and it's also our date night. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? And I would have came out because the brother, I see what he do. He do a lot on his podcast, and we need more of y'all to support it. Not the new TikTok dance, because that ain't gonna get us nowhere. You know what I'm saying? We need to dance for liberation. We need to dance for each other. You know what I'm saying? In harmony, no matter where genre you come from. We have to be transparent with all the way across all across the board. Thank you.
Right quick, we got a sister that's going to come up and give a quick announcement to y'all, and then we're going to bring up the next speaker, our life coach, Miss Teak Nicole. So could you come up, sister? She only got a couple of minutes. She wanted.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Stevens. I am a community connector with Now Included. I just want to briefly take about 5 minutes of your time just to let you guys know that I'm here as a representative of the Now Included organization and passing out literature and information to you. So I have my phone in my hand because I want to make sure I stay on target, okay? And so you may be wondering what is Now Included. It is a community platform that educates and empowers Black and brown people to communicate to them making healthier decisions and encourage them to participate in clinical trials. Now, you also may be wondering, why would I participate in a clinical trial or clinical research? The question is actually, why would you not? Participation is key. It basically is to help others and to contribute to the moving science forward. An example of that is the medications that we take, Tylenol, Lidocaine ointment. How do we know it works on us if we have not actually participated in that clinical trial? So we want to make sure that we are participating and engaging in clinical trials because medication affects us in our health. You may be wondering, do I actually work for Now Included? Not formally. Like I said before, I'm a community connector. As a connector, I help to educate and empower our community. I'm the one that's out here, boots on the ground, coming to the health resource fairs and other organizations in the community to give you information. You may be wondering, how can you help me spread the word? A couple of ways. One of the ways is that you can join me as a connector and that you help me find in the local events so that we can engage our community. And we also partner with large and small organizations, digital influencers, academia, and government health entities. Now Included is not a nonprofit. Now Included is how the digital health company, which is our parent company, Acclinate, engages in communities. Acclinate actually partners with the pharmaceutical companies, government agencies, academic organizations, medical institutions, and other healthcare organizations. You may also be wondering, well, is what we're doing working? I would say yes. I would say yes because the government has started requiring that all clinical research is more representative of the populations impacted by different diseases, which is in the Black and brown communities. You also may be wondering, do I give your data or your information to our research partners? We don't do that. We never share without your consent. We protect your information at all costs. Your privacy is important to us. How can you share your story? So we would ask you a few questions, like what's your story? Why is health important to you? Would you be willing to participate in research? Why or why not? And then we will ask you to sign a media release if you are interested, and we will ask you if we can share it on our social media platform. What research opportunities do we have now? So right now we have clinical trial opportunities for COPD, pulmonary sarcoidosis, chronic kidney disease, and a few others. The other upcoming opportunities that we are looking at and researching are for skin studies, heart disease, breast and lung cancers. The last question that you may be wondering is, how do I sign up? I'll be in the back. I will share a QR code with you if you are tech savvy. If not, we have a website that you can go on to sign up, which is nowincluded.com. And then I'm also passing out literature and just some sunglasses just for you to have. That's all I had to share. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation, and continue to show up for these community events, health fairs, and other organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for that information. And getting back on the mental wellness event, could you please come up to the podium? Miss T. Nicole, she's a life coach. She's going to give us a little bit about her experiences.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Coach T. Nicole, but my real name is Terri Teasley. And so I changed my name because I changed who I was. So I am a survivor, I am a daughter, I am a friend, and I am, most importantly, myself. So growing up in the city of Pontiac, my life wasn't so easy. So like my brother said, like prison was for some people that was molested. So for me, I was molested at an early age, and my age was 4 years old. So for many years, I did not know my worth. I did not know my identity. I was so quiet, and I did not know how to show up. And so growing up, I didn't like my father, and let me tell you why, because he used to beat my mother. And so for years, we never got the help that we needed. And so I watched him one day. He was able to tell his story. So in that moment of him telling his story, why he did the things that he did, I learned how to forgive him. But still, I was hurting because he didn't know my secret. I didn't know how to tell my parents that I had been molested by somebody that they trusted to take care of me. So I was full of hurt. I was full of anger, confusion for so many years. So growing up, when I was 25 years old, I was working at a school, and it's funny how God will put you in a place to be able to help somebody, and you don't even know why you are there. But the thing was, it was my training day. So all the children that I impacted, they didn't know that I was living a life of a lie. Like I was an imposter, but even still, I had to take those moments to help heal the children, to be there for the children, to listen to the children, to identify when they were being hurt at home, when they were not getting enough food and not getting the things that they needed from the people that God entrusted to take care of them. So I remember when I hit rock bottom. I was 25 years old and I fell into depression. I had lost my cousin, and I'm like, God, you gotta show me who you are, because I realized I couldn't go to heaven based on what my mom and daddy taught me. I realized that I wanted to know more of God. I wanted to know who he really was. So he showed me who I was in him, and what I was capable of doing. So this woman that you see today, I wasn't always her, because again, I was that imposter, but I was comfortable being that imposter, because I remember times when I would hang with my friends, not my sister, because she was in college at the time, but I would hang with my friends, and they didn't even know that I had been molested. They thought that I, was pure, this pure person, all the way up to to 18 years old, but they didn't know that somebody violated me. And I was living like, okay, this is normal, this is okay. So when I hit 25, I wanted to take my life. I started chain smoking, and I wasn't even a smoker, but it was okay, because I was like, I'm gonna leave this world anyway, so let me get up out of here today. But God said, no, you got to wake up. I created you for a purpose. I allowed you to go through those things. And I remember having that conversation. I'm like, God, I can't make it. He like, yes, you can. You see, the thing is, we never know what we were created to do until we go through our journey, our life's journey. So the thing is, here I am today. I'm a life coach. Never in a million years did I know I could be a life coach. Not only am I a life coach, I help people find their voice, to show up authentically, to overcome their fears. Because a lot of the times when God was dealing with me, he was showing me that I was just afraid to live because I had been hurt. I had carried all this weight. I didn't want nobody to love me inappropriately. So guess what? I carried weight. And so I'm still a voluptuous woman, but I walk with my power as this voluptuous woman. I'm loving my skin. But at a time, I didn't love my skin. So here it is. I work with individuals, showing them that they have power, that their words are their power. So you have to be willing to change the way you speak. You can no longer sit up here and say, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that. Because y'all remember when y'all was little, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. That's a lie, because that's what hurted you the most in the first place, because somebody told you was ugly, somebody told you couldn't do this, somebody told you that you couldn't do that, and you believed them. You believed them based off of what they said to you. So now, here it is. I'm a life coach. I'm helping people to pull off those layers. But it's funny how when you start spending time with God, he will show you something. He started pulling off the layers for me. And I'm like, God, I see you. I see what you're doing. So he allowed me to go on this journey. So here it is. As a coach, not only am I helping individuals walking in their power, I'm showing you how to face your fears. But I realized something. I can't help anybody change. As a coach, I can't help you change, but I can give you the tools that you need to change, but you gotta wanna change yourself. So I'm not just your traditional, I'm not a therapist. I'm a life coach. I help people. Like, come on, let's do this together. So I tell them all the time, I can't diagnose you, but I can show you that you can overcome your fears. I can show you that you can be here. You can stand up in front of people. And I have a best friend. She always get on me. She be like, why do you make me step out of my comfort zone? Because I know your worth. Sometimes you just need somebody to tell you that you're worth it. So I'm taking a total little different approach, because I could give y'all a sob story, but y'all don't need to hear a sob story. So as the coach that I am, I always encourage people to show up, to shine, to live, to overcome. So yes, your words are your power. Your words are your power, but I need y'all to start believing in everything that y'all want to have into y'all life. Everything that y'all want to overcome and just face. And I know it seems like I might be all over the place, because that's what I think. I don't know if y'all think that, but that's what I feel. But I'm like, I'm in this place now. I'm in this place. So as this woman, as this life coach, as this person that has overcame and faced her fears, it's like now I created my business. It's called Driven by Purpose. And the reason why it's called Driven by Purpose, because I'm not driven by fear anymore. I'm not driven by the world's opinion about me, because I'm no longer the imposter that I used to be, but instead I'm walking fully in my purpose. So no matter if people support me or don't, I still got somewhere to go. And so sometimes people just need to see that. People need that glimpse of hope. So I'm going to tell you, yes, you can make it. I'm going to tell you, you can overcome. So no matter what you've been through in your life, you just got to keep pressing. Our past did not determine our future. It was just a part of the journey. It was a part for you to see, like, you know what, I lived this experience, but now I'm a better person today. But now you have to believe that's who you are. You have to be willing to walk in it. So I have 7 principles that I follow. It's the program that I do. It's called Empower, Achieve, Succeed. I am under Dr. Anoya Fodi. And so some of the things that we do, we face our fears and we redefine what fear looks like. Because sometimes fear will stop you from accomplishing all your goals. It will stop you from showing up in this world. But when you redefine it and say, you know what, if I don't reach my goal, then I'm not going to be who I need to be. So I'm taking the fear of losing to become a better person today. So I help individuals redefine their fear, to know what the power of their words are, to be able to say, you know what, today my words are going to be what I need, and I'm going to say everything that I need to say so I can be who I need to be for me, for my family, and not hold on to fear. I'm not going to hold on to the past. And so not only that, you start noticing, you're noticing the different things in your life and how they impact you directly. What do they make you do? And all of the different things that you need to notice about your life. So like me standing up here, like in a million years, I never would have thought I would be speaking in front of people. But now I'm like, you know what? When I speak, it makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel strong because I can share my message and I can help somebody else. So noticing, and not only do you notice, then you just sit up here and you look at the different aspects of your life. or not the aspects of your life, but just how you are leading. So sometimes we show up fearful. Sometimes we show up brave. Sometimes we show up like courageous. So what aspect of you are leading? So it's more that you're coming conscious and aware of how you're showing up in the world. So this is something that a lot of us need to do, because sometimes we blame everybody else for how we show up and the things that happen to us. So like I said, some things happened to me in my past, but I had to learn to take accountability for what I allowed. And then how I decided to live my life today, because I could have been somebody that was out here lost out of my mind, but I'm not. I'm whole, I'm healed, and I'm trusting that God, again, he allowed me to go through the things I went through. And I'm not your traditional life coach. I am a holistic life coach, because I realized something. We are made up of 3 components: the mind, the body, and the spirit. So if you are willing, listen, because I remember when you gave your testimony the last time I was here, because the thing is, sometimes we just want to focus on one thing. So y'all see me right here. There was a time where I got sick. It was like I was having some pain in my body, and I don't know where the pain was coming from. I was going to the doctor. I couldn't even hold down water, but they wanted to prescribe me with some medication. But like I said, I experienced that trauma at an early age, so it started to show up physically for me. And I'm like, God, you really gonna have to show me how to get through it. So as he started to speak to me and he showed me, he was like, listen, you can't just work on one thing. You gotta work on everything, because it's all interconnected. So as I began to continue on my journey, it was like he started to heal me, restore me, renew my mind, renew my body. And that feeling where I was sick, it started to go away, because I started doing things. And the things that I did, I started to believe in me. I started to meditate. I started to pray. I started to eat differently. I started to exercise. And a lot of time people don't do that, because I used to go to church like religiously. And I feel like I was going to hell straight through the church. And let me tell you why, because I was doing things I didn't have no business doing. That's what I felt like. I was like, this is not the life that God had for me. And so as I built my relationship with God, he showed me it was okay. It was all a part of the journey. But I told God, I said, I'm going to give you my whole life. And that's why I am here today. And I'm alive. And I'm grateful, because it all tied in together. Because even though I was broken, I was bitter, I was hateful, I was hurtful, I remember 2018, it was September the 7th, well actually the 6th. My daddy had been on his deathbed, and he was there for 2 whole weeks, and I didn't hear him speak. But that day they pulled a plug. I told him, I said, Daddy, I love you. And he was like, I love you. That was the last time I heard my father speak. And in that moment, that's when that true forgiveness took place for me. Because again, he didn't hear that I had been molested, but I could feel God like trying to prepare me for what was taking place. And that was the forgiveness that I needed, so I can continue on this journey. So I'm something like my daddy. My daddy was the one that would help people that was dealing with HIV, and he would make sure they had all the resources that they needed. And so here it is. I started my organization. So with that, I do the coaching, but I offer actual service where I make t-shirts, I make flyers, and I do a show. And the thing is, I help people tell their story on my platform, because I believe that no one can tell your story better than you can. So with the show, it's like I give them an opportunity. You can do it however you want to, but it all ties into the coaching, because of the simple fact, when you tell your story in the comfortability of your own home, or if you're dancing, if you're singing, if you're making food, it's like it's healing to the soul. And it releases all the things that you have been wrestling with, dealing with, and it's like it's freeing for the person that's telling the story and for the person that's hearing the story, because of the simple fact, like my brother said, everybody has a story. And sometimes we look at people, we pass judgment on people when we see them because they like, oh, you got a story because you see me here today, but I've been broken. I've been battered, I've been bruised, and I did not always love myself. But here it is today, 2024, I'm standing and I'm moving and I have an organization and I'm doing it all by myself, but God gets the glory. And I love how he has brought me here. So for people like, I was never physically in prison, but I was wrestling with things in my mind. And so I had a pleasure of talking to my friend today, Demel. So I know y'all, many of y'all know who Demel is. And he was saying, T, he was like, you know, you got to tell people about the mind component, the body and the soul. He said in Islam, they learn about how it all is connected. And he was saying how, you know, some people had broke it down where they only wanted to focus on the mind, the body, and the spirit. So that's why this is important for everybody that's here right now, because again, I just told y'all my whole lifespan and how everything that we experience in life is connected. So out of me working on my mind, my body, and my spirit, I was able to do all those things. But I want to encourage you again to work on your mind, to work on your body, to continue to move forward, and to know that you have power to change your situation, your circumstance, and you do not have to walk around here defeated. And so I want to leave you guys with something. I want you guys to work on your mental health every day. I want you to also just practice self-care, because a lot of times a lot of mental health issues are caused because you are not taking care of the whole person, and you're overworked, you're overextended, and you just be doing everything, and you need to practice self-care. You really need to focus on who you are and not try to take care of everybody else's problems. So as the coach, this is some of the advice and some of the tips that I have for my clients. Because again, I can't do the work for you, but I can give you the tools and cultivate the tools that you already have and the gifts that you have inside of you. So I just wanted to encourage everybody on today. I am Coach T. Nicole, and I am the founder of Driven by Purpose, and I want to say thank you for having me on today.
Thank you, Coach T. And for the people that's on our social media platform, if you're still there watching, this is, like I said earlier, this is well needed in our community. You're hearing from some people that's really giving their life stories to you guys as an example to help you further your life if you're going through a crisis. You know, it's a lot of people that's coming home from prison, like the brother Knuckles Zeal said, that's coming home from prison that's going through mental illness issues that they got to deal with themselves about it. That's the purpose of us having this conversation today. And now I'm about to bring up our last speaker, Miss Paris Freeman. She wears a lot of hats in this field, so I'll let her display the things that she does.
God bless you, everyone. I'm Paris Freeman, and grateful to be part of this discussion. I am honored that I was able to listen to the brother and the sister. I have been blessed by your words of encouragement. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a substance abuse counselor, and most of what I'm going to be talking about today has to do with awareness, and that awareness is going to be about pride, right? Stigma, and the need to stay connected to the community. So I hope you will indulge me just a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm not that good where I can, without my notes. I need my notes, okay? So as long as I'm able to relay the positive message that I want to relay, that's what I'm hoping to do. So I hope you'll indulge me. A little bit about my background is that will come from personal and professional experiences, and that's going to drive this discussion. My background started actually in law, right? I was a paralegal, legal assistant for over 10 years. I worked at Wayne State University as a law professor's assistant, and then transitioned into practical law, where I did criminal law, immigration, and white-collar crime. In my last position, the attorney I worked for you couldn't even talk to him unless you had at least a $50,000 for retainer fee. And personally, I was having a lot of challenges in doing this type of work. I was having challenges in my personal life, and I was having challenges in my professional life. So in my personal life, dealing with this, I was having responsibility challenges, and I want you to understand that I'm bringing this all together as a result of people that I deal with, and maybe that I am identifying with when I'm having counseling sessions about mental health and substance abuse based upon my own life experiences. We don't necessarily have to have the same experiences, but we definitely can identify, right? So I was having problems with responsibilities, relationship problems. I was going through a divorce, and I developed a need to escape, right? Just like a lot of us. And on a professional level, I watched people literally get away with murder in the law field, in the legal field, because they had money, right? And while watching my own people being hoarded away, to jail and prison like cattle, it was what they call the answer on the war on drugs. And the sentencing a lot of times was harsh and unfair. The other factor was the duality that I was dealing with, right? I had to perform. And I think one of the brothers talked about this, it's duality, the sense of duality. And matter of fact, the brother's wife, we had an opportunity to talk before I came, before the program started, and it's called code switching, right? And so every day I went to this good job with this good pay, and I worked there where there were no black attorneys, right? A handful of people that looked like me. And so my blackness and my ancestors and my black girl magic was not accepted there, right? Without support, I started to spiral out of control. But it was my pride that told me that I was okay. See, because I was driving a BMW, right? And I had a house to go to, and I had all of these things that told me that I was okay. And a lot of times when I am counseling or in session with a lot of my clients, one of the things that they start to equate things with is material goods, thinking that they're okay. As long as I got this, when I come back out, as long as I'm showing the outward appearance of having it together, that everything is going to be okay. But deep down inside, I was dying because I didn't have the support, and I didn't know how to reach out for that support. And so that is one of the things that I talk to clients about, is the importance of reaching out for support. Put your pride aside. Put your pride aside so that you can get the help that you need. Now, I don't know if what they say, the cart become before the horse, or the horse come before the cart, but we know that mental health stems substance abuse, and a lot of times substance abuse will stem mental health. So it's almost like a two double-edged sword. You stay in it long enough, you're gonna have a taste of both, right? So I started to get some help. God opened a door for me called AA, right? Because one of those challenges is that I told you I was trying to escape, right? All of these things that were going on in my life. And it's the same thing for those who have come out, from incarceration. Same thing for people who are trying to get themselves together from whatever past traumas that they've gone through. They're reaching out. We're trying to connect them to things that will allow them to get the support. That for me, it was AA. This past Thursday, I celebrated 14 years of sobriety. So that is part of what, and I have noticed in all of the talks with the brother and the young lady, we are all talking about our experiences. It is those experiences and those gifts that we give back to humanity, right? She spoke about, the coach talked about the journey of life. A lot of times when we're going through these things and we are faced with all of this, for me, I'm not gonna go into all of it. I went through a lot of trauma. Everything that was mentioned up here, I went through. And, but I had a praying grandmother. I had people who were around me. And I want to appeal to the people that have people who may be incarcerated, or those that are coming out, and those who, and if you are in the community, I want you to know, and I want you to start connecting to the community at large. There are services, and I heard this being said, there are people that care. One of the things at the end of myself, when I started to really get myself together, I got connected back to my spirituality. And my spirituality has been an anchor for me. It has been an anchor for me because I learned that I had a choice. See, I was serving everybody else's God. I had no God of my own. I had my grandmother's God, and I had my husband's God. And I had, my mother-in-law's God. That's the God and stuff where you keep your hair in a bun. You don't wear cut-out shoes, and you don't wear makeup, because if you did, you're going to hell. So I had to find the God of my own understanding, right? And the God of my own understanding came from one of my ancestors, right? And so spirituality for me, I had to choose I had to choose a scripture that meant something to me, for me to stand on. And that scripture was, I'll never leave you or forsake you. And so with that, God opened up a number of doors. My adopted father is the pastor of this church. And he began to talk to me about changing my mindset. And that's what I mean by you need to stay connected to the source. The source can be the people in your community that want to show you that that a support is available for you. And so I'm grateful for that. But also, I want to talk about, even though, and you guys may have seen on the paper that I'm a behavioral specialist in the correction facility, which looks good on paper, but the person you see today was because of my experience working with MDOC, working with men. All my career, I've worked with men. I used to feel bad about that, right? And I'm like, why is it that I just exclusively work with men? I work with women too, but God just gave me that I have a good work ethic. I have good boundaries. You're not gonna, no. Keep that to yourself. Keep that to yourself. I'm not your mother or your wife. What I'm here to do is to help you. And I think that part of it is because my bio father, he was a heroin addict, and we had no real relationship all of my life. But I do believe in my heart even today that he wanted to be a father, right? But them drugs just wouldn't allow him to do it. And so when I see men with mental health and drug abuse problems, that's what comes up. because when you get to know them, and I'm so glad that my colleague is here today. Just your presence is helping me, thank you. And what we do at Share House is we do what is called the psychological screening. So this is when you see those are severe cases, and we get the opportunity to see them as well every day. But luckily, we are able to transfer them to psychiatrists right away, to intervention in crisis centers, right? But we do the psychological testing, and the coach was talking about the storytelling. So for me, the psychological screening, the assessment, counseling is the way that the client tells me their story, right? But we have to get to, and I don't know if it's the continents or in the way that I talk to clients, but they feel comfortable with telling me their story. That's what I need, because I'm trying to get you to the help that you need. I need you to get to the healing that you need, right? And so it takes, I believe, it takes some special people to do this kind of work. It really does. And it allows people to get gut level and for people to reveal themselves. And sometimes it takes some time. Let me share a story with you about my MDOC awakening, and I'm not gonna hold you long. But my first experience dealing with MDOC client was my third week at Share House. I was an assessment counselor, and this was back in 2011. And the young man, I had just gotten started, had my little office and everything, and the young man came in, which was not a young man. He had to be in his 40s. He was about 6'5" and a good 260 pounds. He was a big dude. And he came in angry. And I kept thinking to myself, why is this man angry? You out, you know, you out. And it was what you talked about, I'm sorry, forgot your name, Knuckles, yes. One of the things that you talked about that helped me to understand the whole, not the whole, but through the experiences of men talking to me, what they experienced while they are incarcerated. He came in, he was mad. And I said, well, you have a seat. I can see that you upset, and he was making me scared. You know, I'm 3 weeks on the job. I haven't seen this level before, but he was mad. And he was like, and I said, well, what's going on? And he said, these MFers, I done came in here and they got these little itty bitty old phones, and you know, and I'm upset about it, you know, and the young boy talking about it's tight. What you mean it's tight? Don't be talking to me like that. You know, he was just going on, and I heard Spirit said, just sit back and let him talk. Just let him go ahead, don't say nothing, just allow him to speak. And that's what he was doing. He was venting. And what I understood is that when he went into prison, the phones was this big, right? He had been in prison for 25 years, starting from the age of 18. He was part of those that they had rolled into prison on that war on drug thing, the 5 to 25 or the 25 to life. And he had been in prison for 25 years because of the crack cocaine epidemic. And he said to me, the tight was just something, when he went into the prison, it was like, ooh, you fresh, you know, you dope or something like that. But when he came out, they was talking about, you know, it's tight and other stuff. And he didn't understand. And so I was able to kind of allow him to, but that was my first experience in understanding what incarceration does. And once the person comes home, the need for decompression, right? The need for us to have places where they can just decompress for a certain amount of time to get their head together and to understand the community in which they're coming back out to. Because the drop-off point and them going back out and experiencing all of these things at one time, it's gotta be mind-blowing, and definitely a reason for further recidivism, mental health issues, and substance abuse. And so So the other thing I want to talk about is just the stigma, right? So working as a counselor and again, the psychological screening, I see people come in and out. I think that this year is one of the first years where I have seen so many older people or people that have been incarcerated that have been older that have never been in any type of treatment facility. So they're some type of functioning, or they have been on the streets, I don't know, but they have not been coming in. This is the first time that they have come in for help. And so you have a lot of older people or just people who have not been in, so it tells me, and when I talk to them, I didn't think of that stuff, I was that bad. I didn't think I needed that much help. And then they realize also that not only do they have substance use issues, but they have mental health issues as well. And so we need to work on, and we continue to work on, I continue to work on letting them know about the smashing of the stigma, you know. And then I am just about done. And I am very much understanding this movie released. I have a sister that is bipolar schizophrenic, and that whole movie is everything that the family has experienced. And so I want to just admonish those persons that are supportive people in the families of people who are having mental health and substance abuse issues, just to continue to pray, continue to be of support. When you start to see some behaviors that are changing, pull them to the side and begin to talk to them and help them to get connected to some type of resource, some type of support. But also I have to say that as clinicians, we know that everything has to be patient-centered and client-centered. We have to respect what the client wants for their life. And the best thing that we can do, just like the coach was saying, is to use our gifts in order to guide them and to get them to where they need to be based upon what they need to do for themselves. It's just like the fish. If I don't teach you how to take care of yourself, when you have this crisis again, you know, you will never know. So giving them the tools in order to teach themselves how to take care of themselves may be necessary. And so I'm happy, and finally, like the brother says, there are people that care about you. If you have people in your family who are dealing with needing counseling, needing support, it is support and counseling out there. Get them to that counseling point, referral point, before it becomes too late. We don't want it to do what it does, like we saw in the movie, where it becomes severe and possible self-harming or harming to others. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity just to share my experiences, strength, and hope. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Parrish. So also I wanted to mention that we just lost a brother to mental health issues, you know, substance abuse. This brother has, his name is Lawrence Six. We know him by Lawrence Six. His real name is Larry Davis Williams. This brother served 10 years in prison, came home from prison, got a job, doing well, educated, but still had issues going on inside of his brain that he couldn't cope with. He wanted help, he reached out for help, but he, you know how we seen in the movie, that's how I feel, as we seen in the documentary, sometimes you have a voice speaking to you that can't nobody else hear but you, and that voice is telling you to do something. You don't need to go to the substance abuse program. You can handle this by yourself. So when you do stuff like that, you may say, well, you know what? This is just my theory on this brother. I'm gonna do it one more time. I'm gonna get my last hit before I go into this program. And his last hit took him out. So just keep in mind to the individual that you may encounter with out here dealing with certain issues, dealing with their mental health. At this portion of the program, I want to bring up a brother that's going to introduce himself, and we talk about resources. How do we go about getting the help? How do we go about getting the people to help us do the things that we need to do? Getting connected with these people in programs and stuff of that nature. So I'm going to bring up the brother Patrick Edwards to tell us how to do that. So get your pens and paper out. If you're on social media, get your pens and paper out and take these notes.
Thank you so much. First of all, that was a great presentation. I enjoyed listening to everyone. There's so much information. I mean, there's so much to be said about mental health and substance abuse and things like that. I am a mental health clinician myself, and it's interesting. I heard people talk about team wellness. We work with team wellness. We work with, I work for COPE, Community Outreach for Psychiatric Emergencies, and of course we work with team wellness. And I'm a product of the Detroit Recovery Project with Andre Johnson and Mike Johnson. Thank you. Yes, so like I said, the company I work for is called COPE, Community Outreach for Psychiatric Emergencies, and we've partnered with Wayne County. So we have a program where to keep the police from taking people to jail who suffer from mental illness, they bring them into our 24-hour facility, which is located on 96 in Farmington. You know, for people that come home, you know, like we saw the gentleman being given 2 weeks of meds, you can come to our facility and get medicated, and you can see a psychiatrist and a therapist if needed, and we connect you with all type of resources, you know, partial day programs, inpatient if needed, outpatient services. So we do all of that. So just keep that in mind, or write down that information so you can let anyone know that may be looking, you know, especially returning citizens, you know, because they come home and they don't have anywhere to go. They don't know about these types of resources. Again, the company is called, we're a subsidiary of a company called Hygira Health, and COPE is who I work for. And it's right on 96 in Farmington, and it's a 24-hour facility. You can come in any time of day to receive your meds, if that's what you need. All right? So, I mean, I don't have time to go into my whole story, so I'm gonna leave with that. Oh yes, I work with returning citizens, and this person, Michelle West, she's been incarcerated for, it'll be 31 years in May. There was a young lady by the name of Kimber Smith that just did a movie that's on BET right now, and Michelle is the person that she's talking about in that movie. So, yes, sir.
When we talk about services, we got a lot of veterans or been you offer to those veterans as well?
Well, not particularly, because most of the veterans go to the VA for their services. But I mean, I don't see too many veterans. You know, because I do emergency assessment, so I go into hospitals and I see a lot of people who suffer from suicidal ideations and substance abuse, and I don't see a lot of veterans because they mostly go to the VA. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, unless, is there any questions or anything? Yes, please. Okay, well, you know, I'm a last minute person that came on, but I mean, okay, absolutely. No, you're right. That is definitely needed, and that's part of the problem. A lot of people don't know where to go. So having people like yourself that's in the community, that's letting people, you know, forwarding these types of resources is beautiful. That's what we need. You know, we also need to, you know, kill the stigmas, and, you know, we don't use the C word in my profession. We don't use the word crazy. No one's crazy. You know, just because you're suffering with, you know, a lot of things that they discussed today, PTSD, I'm a returning citizen myself. So, you know, I understand all of that, and I, you know, a lot of times it takes people a while to find their voice. You know, this is not the most comfortable conversation to have, but, you know, it works. I mean, it works. Oh, okay, great, beautiful. Absolutely, absolutely, you're right. Yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Well, that's going to conclude our dealing with mental health. Let's get better together. I think this was a relevant program. I think we put out a lot of information that may be helpful to the community. And like I said earlier, don't just look at an individual just because they're coming home and you see them out there and you see that they need some help. You know, sometimes you can help people. You know, sometimes it just takes to just have a conversation, like the brother Knuckles Zill said. That's all it takes. You don't have to have a brother go through all these loops and hoops and being on all this medication. Just meet them at their level. Meet them where they at. The brother said, he talked to a brother standing on his head. He got on his head. And he met him at his level. And they had a great conversation after that. So in conclusion, I want to say thank you for everyone that joined. Thank you for the speakers. Y'all did a magnificent job. And may God continue to bless all of us. And that's all I have. Thank you.